Right. Good morning and welcome to another live stream on the Blind Advocate channel. First things first, look, I really need everyone's support. I need 1,000 subscribers. Once I get 1,000 subscribers and a few watch hours up, I can start getting reimbursed for my time from YouTube. They pay like advertising to the YouTube channel owner, which is me, because I can't afford to purchase the software that I need to run this channel. So if I get 1,000 subscribers, that'll help towards the ongoing costs, which I can no longer afford. So please go to the YouTube channel, Blind Advocate, hit subscribe and select all notifications. And please feel free to comment and to share it as well. What we're going to talk about today is last year on 2GB on the Ben Fordham show and Ray Hadley show, there was they played segments from a young woman who put something on the YouTube about how to get on the NDIS and buzzwords and key phrases that the NDIS like to hear. Now, this young woman, after that was played, the then CEO of the NDIA, Rebecca Fortningham, and her top lieutenants actually kicked this young woman off the NDIS without due process, which I'm really pissed off about. It's not how it should have been done. If they were concerned that this young woman did the wrong thing, then they should have reported that and followed the correct procedures of going to making a complaint to the Quality and Safeguards Commission. But they think they have more power than they really do, and they actually kick the person off without any due process, which is what we all have to follow as participants of the NDIS, as well as our carers and families and carers do as well. Rebecca Fortningham was on over, I think it was $817,000 a year to be head of the NDIS, the NDIA. She chose to abuse her power and kick this person off without due process, which is outrageous. It should never have happened. If she wasn't happy with this person's YouTube channel and what was said, she should have followed the correct procedure and reported her to the appropriate people. She didn't do that. She just thought, I'm kicking her off. That's it. So this young woman appealed and she won the appeal. Now she's back on the NDIS. When I was made aware of this, I was outraged, really, really peed off that this abuse of power by the CEO of the NDIA happened. And what's happened to these top people who breached their own codes of conduct? Nothing. They were still getting $817,000 a year until October this year. But this person was kicked off the NDIS without due process, which is wrong. Absolutely wrong. It should never have happened. And in my opinion, those people who were instrumental kicking this young lady off the NDIS should have been fired on the spot by Mark Butler or the Prime Minister. Complete abuse of power. So I looked on YouTube to try to find the videos that 2GB were referring to. I even contacted Ben Fordham months ago, and I still haven't heard anything back. I did see on LinkedIn that a couple of people had the video. One was George Telopoulos, so I reached out to him, and he sent me the link to it, which I do appreciate. Now, she's got 3 videos that she's put out, and I've viewed them a couple of times each video, and they all go about an hour long. And there were quite a few times that statements that she made, in my opinion, raised red flags. Really raised red flags. Now, I know very little about people who are neurodivergent. I can't and I won't make an opinion on on those conditions because I know next to nothing about them. This is not about that. This is about statements that Estelle Lucas is the person's name made that gave me great concern. And at the end of the video, I'll let you know what I think should happen or should have happened. But we've gone through and we've time coded a few and highlighted a few of the red flags that for me are concerning. So can we just go to the first one, please, Chris?
Likely that you'll need to be on the NDIS for a long time. This means you won't have to prove your disability every time we reassess your plan. What that means is this is not a means test process. What does a means test mean? It's a determination of whether an individual or family is eligible for government assistance or welfare, in this case NDIS, based upon whether the individual or family possesses the means to do without the help. So in my story, if we go back to my story, one of the reasons I didn't apply for the NDIS sooner, I wasn't like...
Okay, so you heard there what her interpretation of a means test is, which in my opinion is wrong. Means test basically means the income that you have as a person. So it relates to your means or your assets. Means is your income and assets is your family home, rental properties, cars, whatever. And she talks about people being eligible for the NDIS. Now, eligible means you can't read something because it's poorly written. What she meant to say was make sure people are eligible for the NDIS, not illegible. And I'll just point out here too that according to this young lady, she has a master's in public health. So she's pretty smart to have that degree. So we just jump forward to the next one, please, Chris.
If you're someone like me who isn't in a cookie cutter version, none of my disability, by the way, none of my disabilities technically can be measured through a neutral machine, like a blood test or a urine test or a scan. I have to prove my disability through self-reported diagnostic methods or screening methods, which means this is the evidence or evidence of other people's reports of your behavior, of your actions, of how you talk or how you are, your energy levels, how you relate, your emotions, how you express yourself. These are all evidence. These are all access points to show if you have an impairment or not. So the first thing to think about whether you're eligible for the NDIS, think about, is your disability caused by an impairment?
Okay, just up there. Just replay that again, please, Chris, and just listen carefully to what she's saying.
Neurodivergent. Yeah, you don't do things like other people, like the normal people. You have a psychosocial disability. If you're someone like me who isn't in a cookie cutter version, none of my disability, by the way, none of my disabilities technically can be measured.
That's up there. Now, she's talking about her disabilities, which I'll quickly let you know what they are. She says she has PMDD, which is premenstrual disorder. That's been diagnosed. Her autism, her anxiety, her PTSD, her depression have not been diagnosed. She diagnosed them herself. And she talks about, being able to measure using a machine a person's impairment or disability. So she's done a self-diagnosis on her supposed autism, her supposed anxiety, PTSD, depression. None of that's been formally diagnosed. This is just her opinion and how she feels. We'll just get forward to the next one, please, Chris.
I wrote the supporting letter for my doctors. Why? Because 1, I know my own history. 2, I did enough research to understand what the buzzwords were, like psychosocial disability, unlikely to, nothing else to repair or remedy it, all treatment options exhausted. These are the buzzwords, right? They don't know that necessarily. They're doing a million other things with a million other patients. So I wrote the letter and I said, if you agree or if you need things to change, please go ahead. If you feel like I put words in your mouth, please correct me, but then just sign it. And that's what they did.
Stop there.
And they
Okay, so you heard what she just said. She wrote her doctor's report herself. For me, that's a major red flag. Nobody but the doctor should be writing a doctor's report. So I'll just get to play that again, please, Chris, to make sure everyone can heard that properly.
I wrote the supporting letter for my doctors. Why? Because one, I know my own history. Two, I did enough research to understand what the buzzwords were, like psychosocial disability, unlikely to, nothing else to repair or remedy it, all treatment options exhausted. These are the buzzwords, right? They don't know that necessarily. They're doing a million other things with a million other patients. So I wrote the letter and I said, if you agree or if you need things to change, please go ahead. If you feel like I put words in your mouth, please correct me, but then just sign it. And that's what they did.
Okay,
And they
stop
did
there. So again, like she wrote the doctor report and said, just sign it. But if you want to change it, change it. That's not what's supposed to happen. Your doctor is supposed to assess you. If he can't assess you, he refers you off to a specialist who then assesses you for these issues that you're talking about. And if he doesn't know what psychosocial disability is or neurodivergent is, as a GP, then again, that raises red flags for me as a doctor. But you can't write your own doctor's report. I go to my doctors and I say, I need a letter from you to the NDIS because they want to know if this thing I'm seeking is related specifically to my disability and what I hope to achieve if I get this piece of AT. And then he wrote it out himself. I had no input of what he put into it, the way he phrased it. None whatsoever. She said, I wrote the doctor's report. She's not a doctor. She can't write a doctor's report. Why this wasn't picked up and referred off to the AMA, because that doctor should not be doing this, allowing his patients or her patients to write their reports on their behalf. It's wrong. And if they can't do it, then they refer their patient off to a specialist, whether it's a psychiatrist or a clinical psychologist or somebody who's had specialized training in diagnosing autism, anxiety, PTSD, depression. But the only thing she's been formally diagnosed is PMDD. It's a huge flag. And when this went to the tribunal, I don't know if that was picked up on, but it should have been. Patients can't write doctor's report. Doctors go to school for years. So what's our next step? So we as people with disabilities go to ChatGPT and say, write my doctor's report for me and make sure you put this in it. Then send it off and say, this is my doctor's report. No, it can't be done. It has to come from the doctor. From someone who specializes in medical issues. It is so wrong. I don't know why that wasn't picked up on, and if it was, what's happened? I mean, that doctor should be reported. You can't have your patients write out your report for you if you're a doctor. They don't have any medical training. Now, if the doctors don't know the buzzwords and key phrases, I think the person should have absolutely every right to say to the doctor, these are the key words and key phrases that the NDA I like to read. I've done it myself multiple times, but I didn't write the report out myself because it's wrong. Yeah, some people mightn't agree with me, and that's fine. You don't have to agree with me. These are just my views and opinions after watching her 3 videos multiple times. It's so wrong. It's probably illegal for a patient to write a doctor's report. Anyway, we'll move on to the next one, please, Chris.
Personal care, hygiene, grooming, eating and drinking, and health. We consider how you get dressed and shower or bathe, eat or go to the toilet. Now, for me personally, my NDIS plan, a lot of my funding goes into my self care. So, because when my health is at its worst or not doing so, I'm not doing so well, health wise, my functional capacity when it comes to self care is substantially reduced, more than substantially. It's like significantly reduced, and I cannot look after myself. I cannot, like, look at me now. I probably look okay because I'm conventionally good looking, but I haven't showered. Actually, I did shower yesterday, but that's so because I worked. I like my job because it
Okay, we
makes me
just looked
shower.
there.
Like,
Okay, she's talking about her functional capacity for personal hygiene. Now, let's not forget, she's a sex worker and she's proud of the fact, and I don't have a problem with her being a sex worker. I really don't. It's none of my business. It's her body, it's her choice, her right. But when you work as a sex worker, then you have to have good personal hygiene. You have to be social to talk to your clients, to your customers. She's talking about her functional capacity for personal hygiene, showering and getting dressed. That to me again raises a red flag. It goes against exactly what she's saying. She's a sex worker. I read a news article that was written on her, and she can earn up to 10,000 a week. She doesn't, but she can. And she used to have a 9 to 5 job, and she couldn't handle it, so she got into being a sex worker. Again, her choice, her body, her right. But when you're saying I can't shower and I can't do personal hygiene, I tend not to believe that because she's a sex worker. She has to be attractive. She has to have good personal hygiene. She has to be outgoing. She has to be personable. She has to be friendly. That's her job. Again, I'll say it again. I don't have a problem with her being a sex worker. It's her right, her choice, her body. And I do not sit in judgment for it. But what does raise a red flag with me is that you struggle with personal hygiene as a sex worker and you have a master's in public health. That does not raise questions for other people. Okay, let's skip to the next one, please, Chris.
progressive multiple sclerosis, for example, can be a good example of this. We consider your ability over time, taking into account your ups and downs. So what this is really saying here, under the criteria they look at, does your impairment substantially reduce your functional capacity, is before the NDIS, how did you do these things? Like, how did you do self-management, self-care, learning, socializing? So for example, before the NDIS, how did I do these things? I had a lot of support with my friends. I had people come with me to social engagements because I didn't want to go alone. I couldn't go alone. I remember for years I had friends come in, cook and clean for me because I couldn't do it. But remember, I'm Turkish, so we have a little bit of a different approach to community, and that was normal. I didn't pay them. but that's what they did, and I needed that, and I could demonstrate that. So but this is what the NDIS can do for you. You can pay someone to come and cook and clean for you and make sure that you're eating well. I had mentors, I had psychologists, I had self-help coaches and life coaches and all this sort of stuff to get me to do the things that was just so hard for me to do because I'm dealing with this disability 24 hours a day, really. And maybe I'll have a good few hours in that day, but that's mostly it. So that is another thing that they'll look at in your application. And you remember they wrote, we'll assess this through your application. So it's very important you are very honest, but also accurate in your application, because that's what they look at.
Okay, she said you've got to be very honest and very accurate. Yeah, writing a doctor's report, in my opinion, not honest. Being a sex worker and not being able to shower and personal hygiene, again, I don't believe it's honest or accurate. You have to get friends to go with you in social outings. Again, sex worker, you have to be a social person. That's part of your job. That's part of what you chose to do for a living, to pay for things that you could not afford when you had a 9-to-5 job. It's another red flag for me. We'll skip to the next one, please, Chris.
And keep a job, contributing to your community, or join social activities. We get this information from your NDIS application. Remember, it has to all be in your application. We look at your ability to do things like fund or keep a job or start your own business, study, spend and save money, play sports, go to the movies, volunteer, travel. It doesn't matter how much your ability to work, study, or socialize is affected by your impairment. It only needs to affect your social or work life in some way for you to meet the criteria. So what does that mean? So remember, they're looking at how your impairment affects your social, work, or study life. So I'll refer to myself. Find and keep a job or start your own business. I work in the industry. I can't get a normal job. I can't get a 9-to-5 job. I will drop. I can't. I used to, and then I got into the industry because I felt my health decline and I felt myself suffering. And so I picked a job that was high paying and I could pick my own hours. So I pick when I work, how I want to work, what conditions I want to work under. That's what I love about this job. And I know for a fact that many sex workers do the exact same thing. So this is a good example of how you can demonstrate how your disability is impacting your ability to work. If you can't keep a job because of your disability, psychosocial disability probably, then you probably can demonstrate that and try for an NDIS application. Same thing with study. Like if you have always wanted to learn X, Y, and Z, but you cannot fit into this cookie cutter version of learning, then you probably have an impairment under the NDIS lens. Same thing with spending money, playing sports, going to the movies, volunteering. If these are all things that you've kind of wanted to do but just can't because of X, Y, and Z reason, then you probably have an impairment and you can demonstrate that. The other thing that they look at.
So again, she's, in my opinion, she's contradicting herself. Like, I am a sex worker. I can't work 9-to-5. I need a high income. Oh, that's fine. I mean, that's what you choose to do. That's fine. But to me, I think she's contradicted herself. Again, not being able to shower and personal hygiene, and not being social and getting friends to go out with her, and women always say, I've heard women say, the most vulnerable position a woman can be put in is when she's naked and laying down. And I would agree with that. But when you choose to do this as a living, then you put yourself at a higher risk than the normal person would do, of being assaulted, abused, verbally and physically abused. Sex workers have to be social. They have to be engaging. They have to pick up on cues on what their customers do and don't like. So to me, again, it's a contradictory statement that she can't do these things on her own. Yeah, it just another huge red flag for me. But yeah, is there another next one, Chris? Please.
That's it.
Oh, that's it. So look, that's one video, and they're just the red flags that I picked out. Now I've watched the 3 videos. Each video goes for about an hour. The first one, she talks a lot about herself. The second one, she talks with, you've heard, we just listened to the second one today. And the third one's probably where she talks about employing her brother to do yard work. You can't do that. I'm not in India. You can't employ family or friends. The NDIA just doesn't allow it because it's a conflict of interest, which I tend to agree with. I think there's a lot of validity to it. But, I strongly urge everyone to watch these 3 videos. Listen carefully to what she's saying. She has a master's in public health. She can't work 9 to 5 shows. She chose to work as a sex worker because she can pick her own hours and pick the days that she wants to work. And I understand that, and that's what she wants to do. Good luck to her. But sex workers, they're social people. They go out, they put themselves in vulnerable positions, places. Yeah, it's a huge red flag to me. And writing her own doctor's report. I mean, are you kidding? If you have a doctor who doesn't know how to write a report, then I think you should find another doctor. And if he doesn't know enough about the issues that she's raised, then her doctor then needs to refer her off to a specialist. But to do a self-diagnostic on the internet, then writing a doctor's report, it's huge red flag. Now, I personally, with all these red flags in the 3 videos that I've watched, do I think she should be in the NDIS? No, I don't. I think she may need some supports, and this could be run by state services. But wait, we don't have state services anymore. The state shut them all down and pushed everyone onto the NDIS. So what do? I think we should get the state services back up, and some people who are on the NDIS who shouldn't be on there should be put on the state-run services. That's my opinion. Now, like I said, I strongly urge you all to watch and form your own opinion. There are people out there who won't agree with me simply because Estelle Lucas self-diagnosed autism and anxiety, PTSD, depression, BPD. The only thing she has diagnosed is PMDD. So no, I don't think she should be on the NDIS. She should, if she's entitled to services, that should be through the state government. Now, in other parts of the video, the third video, she talks about she gets $100 a week, Chris, or fortnight for taxis. It's $100 a week. She gets $100 a week so she can go to and from appointments because she can't drive or she can't take public transport. Now, I live in rural New South Wales. Now, for me to go from my home downtown by taxi is about $19 something. I get $30 a fortnight. to help me cover those costs. And I only get half a pension because my wife works. And I don't have a problem with that, getting half a pension because my wife works. But if you're a person earning up to 10,000, you can earn up to 10,000 a week, or even 2,000 or 1,000 a week, 3,000 a week, 4,000 a week. Why do you need to get the government to support you having a taxi? You know, she's on 250,000 a year plus. That's a good income. That's a good means test for her. But there are a lot of people out there on the NDIS with significant disabilities who get a pension, which is just above the poverty line. Is that fair? No, it's not fair. Not in my opinion, no. Something's got to, we're talking about, I mean, one of my pet peeves with the media is they lay all of the blame for the cost blowout of the NDIS at people with disability, at the people with disabilities. Now, I've told so many people over the years that for for hundreds and hundreds of years, people with disabilities just went without. They had no choice. If they couldn't get family to look after them, they were put in institutions, and they just had nothing. They went without. That was their way of life. They went without. The NDIS comes along. Oh, we'll help you get back in the community. We'll help you find a job. We'll help you be more social, and help you with the adaptive and assistive technologies. Now, all these people who are on disability pension who had nothing for their entire lives and now getting resources that they can use daily to get them out of their house, get them back out in the community, get them into social activities or back into the workforce. And the cost is blown out. This is not the person with a disability's fault. When you've gone without I was 25 when I got my first disability. And I went from the TV to the computer, from the computer to the TV, and the TV to, that's all I did all day, every day. I tried looking for work, but nobody wanted to employ a person with a disability. And that got 100 times worse when I lost my sight. I got Cert 4s in disability services, Cert 4 in community services. I'm a qualified massage therapist. Done all that to find a job or be self-employed. None of it worked out because nobody wanted to employ me. And when I went into my own massage business, that didn't work out either. But I tried. I worked really hard for a long time. But like I said, I only get half a pension because my wife works. But I get $30 a week or $30 a fortnight to help with the cost of taxis to get to and from the doctors or whatever I need to do. Now here's a woman who's earning 2, 3, 4, 5,000 a week, getting $100 a week for taxis. I don't think that's fair. I really don't. And going back to what I was saying at the start now, when you watch these videos and make your own, listen to them more than once. Just pick out what she's talking about and focus on what she's saying. Rebecca Fortneham, the former head of the NDIA, emailed her top lieutenants and got this person kicked off the NDIS. without due process. She should have been reported. If they thought there was something wrong, that she should have been reported to the Quality and Safeguards Commission. They should have followed their own process, which they probably helped write and enforce. They didn't do that. They thought they could just kick her off and be done with it. No, I think that's more egregious, way more egregious than this woman writing her own doctor's report. Now, Rebecca Fortnam, $817,000 a year she's on. Abused her position and got somebody kicked off the NDIS without following due process. That's wrong. She should have been fired on the spot for that. And I'm still angry about it because we, as participants of the NDIS, we have to follow procedures set out by the NDIS. We have to get an OT report or a physio report or a doctor's report if we need something. Then we have to submit it. Then it's declined. Then we appeal it. Then it's declined again. So we appeal it again. Now, when I first got on the NDIS, everything I applied for was turned down. They said, no, you can't have it. One of which was a talking microwave oven. So I suffer with chronic insomnia because my eyes, I can't see daylight. My eyes don't produce that hormone serotonin. So I suffer with chronic insomnia. I need a talking microwave oven so I could heat up a cup of coffee. I can't drink water-based coffee because I've got bad acid reflux, so I have to drink flat whites. And I need a talking microwave oven. I needed it. I needed it so I could reheat. I needed it so I could make myself a cup of tea or coffee or Milo, whatever I wanted. When I went to the AAT process, the NDIA lawyer said, well, why don't you get a support worker to come over and make it for you? I went, what, 1 o'clock in the morning? Then again at 2 and at 3:30 and at 5? And then the excuse was, oh, we have staff who are blind or vision impaired and they have a talking microwave oven and their family doesn't like the voice. I said, what's that got to do with me? And of course they're going to say that because you're employing them. It's a conflict of interest. And the lawyer was offended and the woman from the AAT tried to make me apologise. They're still waiting and they'll never get an apology because I'm right. We have to follow a process when we apply for things. So why isn't the CEO of the NDIA forced or made to follow the same processes that we're forced to follow? You just can't kick someone off the NDIS without due process. Now, there's quite a few red flags. The ones I covered today were just the top few. There's a heap more in there. You need to watch it for yourself. And again, in my opinion, does she deserve to be on the NDIS? No, I don't think so. I think if she does need services, she should get them from a state-run service, not the NDIS. Like I said at the very start, I know nothing about neurodivergence or psychosocial disabilities. I can't even make an opinion or an even informed opinion. I just don't know enough. But what I do know is that if you have these problems, then you need to be diagnosed by a health professional. If your GP can't do it, then he refers you off to a specialist who can. You can't just go, oh, oh, I don't think that way, so I'm autistic. So I'm eligible for the NDIS. No, you can't self-diagnose. You can't write your own doctor's report. You should be diagnosed by a health specialist. Now, I've said this from day one. I believe the Labor Party rushed the NDIA out. Their trial was not long enough or wide enough. They did trial areas. I think Newcastle was one of them, the closest one to me. And they had different disabilities, and people were getting all this stuff, and they thought, governments thought, wow, why don't we class these as everyday items so people with disabilities can't use them? Well, just because something's an everyday item does not mean it's not needed by a person with a disability, which is disability specific. There is so much going on with the NDIS. There's so many good things, and there are so many bad things. Over 90% of the workforce of the NDIA have a disability, which is fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. I had a woman ring me up from the NDIA a week ago because I applied for some headphones. And she was blind herself. So she understood what I was talking about. And that was approved. That's the first time in 10 or 11 years that I've actually spoke to somebody who's blind on the NDIA. She knew exactly what I was talking about. She knew exactly the difficulties I was having. I think I'm a few years older than this person. But it was so good to talk to someone at the NDIA who understood what it was like to be blind. It was such a relief. And I actually said to this person, you are the first person I've ever spoke to at the NDIA who was actually helpful and understood where I was coming from. Now, I know a lot of NDIA staff, they've never worked in the industry before. And they're doing plan assessment, plan reviews. And they know nothing about disabilities. Nothing at all. And that in itself is criminal. When you have someone telling you what you do and don't need, how you should and shouldn't be using things, and when you should and shouldn't use them. And what was their expertise? Oh, I worked at the tax office. I started this Monday and I left my other job last Friday. No, it's not right. But Rebecca Fortningham, I know you're going through some personal issues at the moment, and I'm sorry that these things are happening to you. But your job as the CEO of the NDIA was piss weak, woeful, disgraceful. You do not have the right to make your own rules up. You have to follow due process like everybody else. Just because you earn an $817,000 a year doesn't give you a golden ticket to do whatever you want. You abused your power. That's the worst thing that's come out of all of this. And I wish the media would just sit down and talk to people with disabilities one-on-one. Actually sit down, ask questions. Not just assume that you know things when you don't. Like, I used to have Foxtel years ago, and I used to watch the documentary channels and stuff like that. because the audio description wasn't available in those days. And I rang up the 1300 number and I asked a question about the app, the Foxtel app. And the person I spoke to said, well, if you're blind, what are you watching TV for? So those attitudes are still out there. Now, I spoke to someone from Binge, which is a streaming service run by Foxtel, and they were bending over backwards to make things more accessible for me as someone who's blind with audio description. And they're going to change their platform. It's going to take a while, but they're going to do it. So we as people with disabilities, we can change things. We just need to make the time and the effort. But again, please, everyone who's watching this, go. I'll put the link to the YouTube channel and to those videos in the chat section of today's live stream. Please go watch the videos yourself. Watch them more than once. Pick up the red flags. And be really honest with yourself. Does this person need to be on the NDIS? And my opinion is no. Does she need help with some things? Maybe. I don't know. I'm only going off what I've seen her talk about on those videos. But she can get her. Well, years ago, she could have got help through state-run services. But there's so many red flags in those 3 videos. There's so many. You just have to listen. Well, that'll do us for today. I know I've ranted and raved a fair bit, but I think it was important to talk about these videos, to talk about what the CEO of the NDIA did. But please watch those videos, make your own informed decision on what this person has tried to do. I think she's tried to help other people, but I think she's made a mistake doing it. She might be a nice person. I've never met her. But anyway, that'll do it for today. If you want to contact me, my email is blindadvocate007@gmail.com. If you want to talk about something I raised today, or you want me to raise a topic in the next week or two, please drop me an email and I'll respond to you as soon as I can. I will end it there. Thanks, Chris. Thanks, everyone.